Thank you for slightly moving around the agenda to allow me to speak and perhaps take a few questions. And I hope that what I say, although I wasn't able to hear everything that Rob had said, that he in many ways has set some of the background to the things that I want to say this morning. As we know, Stephen Lawrence dreamed of being an architect to change the way our cities worked and the lives of the people who lived there. And his murder 16 years ago cut those dreams short. And we all know we're here today, in part because the refusal of his mother and his father to let his death be in vain, to refusal to accept the total inadequacy of the police investigation, and I think their dignity in the face of the unimaginable sorrow and grief and their determination to pursue justice no matter how difficult has changed Britain immeasurably, and we all, Doreen, owe you a huge debt. Now, let me just start by saying something straightforward. I know that some people worry that the government's commitment to the anti-racist or race equality agendas, which were highlighted so clearly in the Macpherson inquiry, has shifted and is no longer such a priority. What I want to do today is to set out to reassure you that nothing could be further from the truth. I and my colleagues share an unshakable commitment to tackling racism and promoting race equality. And Lord Macpherson identified the fundamental shift that needed to be made, not just passively tackling racism, but actively promoting race equality. The charge of institutional racism within the police was acknowledged as a challenge to all public services within schools and universities, the health service and the civil service. And the Race Relations Amendment Act which followed was a watershed moment. It not only extended the laws against discrimination, but charged over 43,000 public bodies with positively promoting race equality and better race relations. It meant a sea change in the way that public services were expected to work. It introduced a proactive approach to meeting the needs of all communities, to understand how different communities are affected by different policies, and to put in place measures which can prevent adverse impacts and promote equality, and to monitor outcomes. Over the past 10 years, that willingness to look the reality and the really tough issues in the face has helped achieve substantial progress. It is an important reminder of the importance of legislative change as a means of changing people's views and attitudes. Since the 1960s, equality laws have helped people access justice when they've been wronged. But those laws have also helped change the way that people think by serving as a constant reminder that discrimination is not fair or justified. It may seem counterintuitive, but sometimes you do change people's minds by changing their behaviour first. Those changes in attitudes meant that people were ready for and accepting of change throughout the system. Changes within the police force have perhaps been the most striking. Macpherson found a service which was overwhelmingly white, lacking in cultural awareness and sensitivity, and which did not take racist incidents seriously. So we set targets for representation, recruitment and progression for minority ethnic officers, changed how racist institutes are defined, and made the recording of stop and search more transparent. Changed the way that police officers are trained to raise awareness of the issues and ensure that they're properly serving minority communities. Now, everyone is always in a position at these events to say what has not yet been achieved, but it's worth recording that the number of officers from minority ethnic backgrounds has more than doubled over the last 10 years. We've also seen an increase in the number of people from ethnic minorities in other areas of the criminal justice system, including the prison service, judiciary and legal profession. The latest data from the Citizenship Survey tells us that people from minority ethnic communities are becoming more confident that the CJS will treat them fairly. The number of black and minority ethnic respondents who believe they'll be treated worse by the criminal justice system has fallen from a third to a fifth since 2001. And the number of racially motivated incidents measured in the British Crime Survey, which measures people's perceptions of crime, has more than halved since 1995. We have to tackle inequalities based on need, not on an outdated ideology or assumptions which may no longer be true. And otherwise we will overlook, for example, those white working class boys. We must redouble our efforts to promote greater equality for all and to combine that with efforts to target the specific problems faced by particular communities. It cannot be either or. We have to do both. And that does mean a much broader approach. It means tackling social exclusion, child poverty and poor housing. It means investment in Sure Start and social housing, in educational skills and in creating job opportunities. It means tackling poverty and raising family incomes, and this, of course, is not a job for one public service or one government department, but for all of us. And there is an important point here about fairness. We have to avoid the perception that some groups are singled out for special treatment. When we target help at one group, we cannot allow others to be left behind or feel disconnected. Interestingly enough, that's what I thought I saw when I visited the Stephen Lawrence Centre. I saw, as I expected to do, young black men and young black women with ability and ambition. I also saw a large number of young people of ability and ambition from all the different communities of South East London, all being given an opportunity together. And I couldn't see a better practical example of what I've just been talking about in action. The overriding message must be that regardless of class, race, beliefs, or anything else, in every community, in every corner of the country, we are on the people's side. No favours, no privileges, no special interest groups, just fairness. And in future, people will be able to see exactly the progress that is being made to reduce race inequality and all other forms of inequality by using easily accessible public data available through a web tool from the Commission, the Equality Measurement Framework. The strategy will ensure that promoting race equality is central to all policy making in all government departments, and that all public services are playing their part in tackling inequalities. The REACH programme for black boys and young black men, our support for Operation Black Vote, and work with the Windsor Fellowships are all examples of those sorts of targeted programmes which are tackling entrenched issues. People also raised the importance of clear leadership, the need to be transparent, and the challenges facing voluntary groups, especially in these tougher times. Stephen's death and his parents' campaign has changed our society forever. We owe it to them to ensure that his legacy lives on. And 10 years ago, we embarked on a journey to eradicate racism, intolerance, and hatred forever. Today, the world to some extent has changed, but we are a long way from realising the goal that we set 10 years ago. And I'm determined that this government will not weaken our determination nor lose our focus until we have done so. Thank you.
I've always been interested in what happened to Stephen Lawrence and what happened subsequent to Stephen Lawrence in terms of the work that Doreen Lawrence and Neville Lawrence did. I came here entirely cynical, frankly, not because of the efforts of the trade union movement and people involved in that and what they try to do, but I just feel in terms of how we're just prevented by the law and the kinds of laws that are written and put before us and how we're supposed to be able to implement them.
I've been a trade unionist for many, many years and also been a community campaigner in Tower Hamlets in East London, especially over the period of the BMP being elected in. And I think one thing I've learned is people being assertive and developing their own self-confidence collectively to really fight and impress their demands on whoever the decision makers are and the policy makers, really.
What I've taken away from today, though, is I definitely can and will try to do much more in terms of getting my union to put forward some amendments around the Equality Bill because of my huge concerns with the watering down of what is already wholly inadequate provisions within race relations law. So that's what I've taken away from today, to go and do more.
And also directly confront racism, whether it's the BMP, whether it's individuals, whether it's kind of groups of people that say something, so you knock back their confidence and develop your confidence.
You know, it has been like 10 years, and 10 years since the public sector has first really had a kick up the backside to say, look, you've got to do something on race equality issues. And 10 years that I feel that they still need to do a lot more, and it's still up to the trade unions to be pushing the management to do stuff, because at the end of the day I feel that there's not a lot of people auditing a lot of these big companies and the public sector, telling them that, you know, they need to up their game on some of these issues.
What's been happening is that the public had not been given all the full story, and somebody somewhere is dampening that down so that not to keep have the bar where people addressing where racism that still exists.